Hello, and welcome to the Family Tree podcast. My name's Helen Tovey. I'm editor of Family Tree, and with me is
Nathan Ward, hello there.
Hi, Nathan. So you were looking full of beans. Does this mean that you have done lots of family history?
No, I'm not full of beans. I'm looking cheeky and impish because I've not done my homework.
Oh, how bad.
What a bad lad. Yes, no, I'm full of beans.
Hmm.
I'm ready to tackle our quote unquote job special or whatever it was, occupation special.
Are you? Excellent. Oh, that might have been a bit of an overpromise, but I have been digging into a bit of my ancestors' occupations because you mentioned last week in the podcast that we were going to be thinking about our ancestors' jobs this time, didn't we? Particularly having a bit of a focus up on them, what they might be able to do to help us learn more about our ancestors' lived experiences.
Yes. I feel like this is just going to really sort of highlight my lack of knowledge of the past or of anything in general, to be honest. Yeah, I've found lots of interesting jobs and I don't really know anything about any of them. So that'll be interesting.
Well, I think you've done your homework better than me. So shall I quickly talk about my homework before we move on to talking about jobs? So my homework obviously is to do my filing. Naughty, haven't done any of that. To dig into Mary Ann Pickering and try and learn more about her young years, particularly because I can't find her on the 1851 census. Yes, I have been doing stuff on that. Yes, I did go down a few rabbit holes, but some of them were occupation related. So I was like, that's all right. And then I also ordered a few death certificates, just to kind of, dot the I's, cross the T's, all that. Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah.
I don't feel too naughty. I don't
Yeah.
think I've been 100% good, but I haven't been too naughty.
But you've still not found her then, I take it.
I still not found her. Yeah, so I went back and I read through all my millions of notes again, and although I am such a big fan of a research log, I've accumulated so many unproductive notes. I was finding them a bit overwhelming to even hold in my head what I'd done. So I'd written it down, but even just holding that information in your head. So I was like, right, start from scratch. So I literally wrote that in my research log. I'm finding this overwhelming and I'm starting from scratch. I'm looking at 1851 to reestablish what I know about Mary Ann's family. And then I had over the course of the last year, I gradually found lots of siblings for her. So I went through and I was thinking, okay, so looking at the 1851, some of those siblings, there's about, I don't know, probably like 7 siblings. Some of them, half of them, were living with the parents on the 1851, but Mary Ann and a couple of the others weren't living with their parents. I was like, why is half the children not living with the parents? So then had to go off and I thought, well, this is actually helpful because potentially Mary Ann's living with some of her siblings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did searches, including the siblings' names, didn't get anywhere. Then I thought, well, I'm going to search for, rather than searching for a combination of the siblings' names, I'm going to search for them one by one. And so I found the first one, I think, Carolina, and she's living as a servant in a farmer's house. And this kind of makes sense because her dad's a farmer, so she would have been like a farm girl. She would have known lots of the ropes of what you need to do to live and work on a farm, be a helpful servant. But it's always that thing, when you find somebody all by themselves and they're not there with their relations, you're like, so is this really my Carolina or is it somebody else's Carolina?
Yeah.
But I've looked and there aren't any other likely contenders. I'm 90% sure this is my Carolina. Okay, good. So
How old is she there then, Carolina?
she would be about 17, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And Mary Ann's about 12. So Mary Ann's her little sister. Yeah.
Right, so she won't be off working, you don't imagine.
Well, she could be. I wasn't sure. So then I carried on searching for Mary Ann and Joseph. So Joseph's her big brother. And I just couldn't find Joseph anywhere. So then I thought, right, I need to do the sad search. And even when I did it, I thought, oh, you're so maudlin, just assuming that he's a Victorian child, so he might have died. Stop being so bleak and depressing. Anyway, I went over to the GRO. It actually ruined my afternoon. And you think, I'm so emotional at the moment. So I popped in Joseph and I thought, right, I'll start from the year he was born, which is 1838, and I'll go in the 2-year increments either way. So you're searching in 5-year spans, and I'll see if I can find him between 1838 and 1851, because he's not in the 1851 either. Within seconds, there he was, poor little Joseph. Yeah, he died already. just 1 year after his birth. So I had to quickly get his death certificate, and find out why he died. And he had inflammation of the chest. And I think, what is it about family history? So this is a little baby. He's my 4 times great uncle. He's quite a distant relation. But I literally felt like a bit downcast, and I had to get myself all girded up again. It can almost make me cry now. It's ridiculous. I don't know what it is. Anyway, got my act together, carried on searching. But I was just so sad because I felt like sad for him because he didn't have his life. And I felt sad for his parents. And I felt sad for his siblings because he's got 2 older sisters. So their little baby brothers died. I was just like thoroughly sad. I got myself really dejected about it all. Anyway, I perked up. It's all right. I perked up. Yeah. Oh, anyway, so then I was like, right, Marianne, my little Marianne really is on her own. She's not with any of her siblings. She is somewhere. She's going to be with a different branch of the family. Maybe my Dickens is. So that's my next thing. But how I perked myself up was with a bit of a rabbit hole.
Go on, go for it.
But this is where it is occupation related. So this is where I feel it's okay. Because I thought, well, I know her dad's a farmer and her big sister is potentially working as a servant on a farm, one of her big sisters. And so I was like, let's find out about this. Just let's only concentrate on her dad's occupations through the censuses and see what I can get, and then build out from the censuses what else I can get. So he starts off 1841, he's a cooper, and his brother's a cooper as well. And then 1851, he's a farmer. The number of acres he has is written on the census. It's quite hard to read there. There's a big splodge of ink, but could be 18 or it could be 8 acres, and he's employing 1 labourer. So that's pretty handy to know. 1861, same deal. He's got 18 acres, and you can read it clearly that time, and 1 lad. So he starts off as a young man. He's a cooper, but then he manages to get some land and become a farmer. And so then I had to do this learning thing. I was like, so 18 acres. What, I mean, is that realistic that there's just him and 1 man and the rest of the family helping?
Sounds like a lot to me.
Well, I thought it sounded like an awful lot. I mean, I have a small garden and I can barely keep it tidy. Yeah.
Yep.
So apparently 1 man and a labourer could farm between 20 and 50 acres. I just feel sure that must be wrong. If anybody listening to this podcast knows more, can they let us know?
But in what terms, in what time period? They're not going to farm the entire area every day, are they? There'll just be sections of it.
Yes. Yes. And you're so right. It does depend what the nature of your farming is, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the seasonality of it as well, I guess.
All of it. And that's where you get ancestors being seasonal workers. That's why the family have to sometimes pitch in, all of it. So it's going to have loads of variables, isn't it?
Yep.
So then I also found him, I looked on the genealogist at the tithe records, and I found him there, and he had 4 acres. So this is quite exciting. So found him in 1840 with 4 acres and a few roods and a few perches, whatever, just like 4 and a bit acres. And so he's there in 1840 having his 4 acres done. Then 1841, he's still calling himself a cooper. And I think this is such a relatable theme to many of our own current lives today, is he's got a side hustle, hasn't he? So he's got his main job, which puts on the census that he's a cooper. And then he has his side hustle that he's getting this bit of land together. And then a decade later, he's not got 4 acres, he's got 18 acres. So that's just a nice little progression to see somebody building up their life, got their side hustle, he stops being a cooper. His brother carries on being a cooper the whole time, and his brother lives with him a few times through the censuses. Yeah?
Cool. That paints a really good picture, that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I liked it. I really, really liked it. And then one of the other bits on the census, it said not just was he a farmer, but he was a farmer and seedsman. And I was like, ooh, interesting. What the heck is that? So then I had to Google, and it's literally somebody who cultivates seeds. And the Victorians, because there'd been the agricultural revolution, people were all about efficiency on a massive scale. And so people are, just as they still do today, anyway, they're cultivating seeds for selling. So then I got really excited, and I thought, right, I'm going to find some brilliant advertisements in trade directories for him saying, James Pickering, seedsman to the Shropshire area, or, with the beautiful old fonts. Anyway, I didn't find any of that yet. I'm going to still keep hunting it down, because started building out his life more and more, which is really nice. And they're perhaps things I should have done a long time ago, but anyway, I hadn't. I found his grave, and his wife had died a few years before him. It has a really touching memorial inscription. He's obviously really, really fond of his wife, which is always nice to know that they had a long, happy life together, or fairly long. They died in their 60s and 70s, respectively. What else did I find? I found his national probate calendar entry, and he left £1,700 when he died in 1881, I think, in the early 1880s. Man alive! So he starts off as a cooper. He's in the 1841 census. 4 decades later, he's a retired farmer. And 18 acres is a small hold. It's like a small amount. It's not maybe a small holding. It's bigger than a small holding. It's a very small farm. So he's only had a small farm, but he's been inventive how he's used that. He's been a seedsman. He's obviously got together a lot of money. And to the last couple of censuses, he's a retired farmer. He didn't have to work, die in harness or anything. He'd put together enough money to live comfortably in his old age. One of his children is living with him with no occupation written. One of his sons, which I was like, oof, that's unusual for that day and age. And normally, unless you were very well off, you had an occupation. So somehow he got comfortably off from selling seeds.
And like, what would that translate to in modern money? Because that must be a lot. 'Cause all the ones that I've seen in probate have been about £50 at most.
So
That-
I don't know. There is the Bank of England exchange rate thing, so we could have a look on there and see what it would equate to. But I don't know off the top of my head. But I definitely, I was like, this is good going.
It's a sizable sum for that time of.
Yeah, sizable sum, and done all by himself and his hard work. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So this broadening out, I'll stop waffling about me, broadening out to other people, like, the sources that we use to help learn about people's lives and try and understand what their occupations meant for their life. Like, what sort of quality of life did that afford? What sort of opportunities did it provide? These are all really fun questions to have a think about, aren't they?
They are, yeah. Like, I think I got a lot of this feeling when I started looking for the occupations of my ancestors. I don't know anything. I literally, so I'm taking the name from the census of what their job is, but I've got no clue about how to apply it. So I've come to this podcast.
Let's hear what you found then. I'd love to hear what you found.
Okay. Bear with me 1 second. I have made notes. See, this just seems like a list because I've got nothing to back it up. I've got nothing to go with anything. I don't have any further information. Anyway, here we go. A few people. We've got William G. Ward, who I've mentioned before, and I totally forgot about this guy. I was quite a long time ago. He was a bridge painter, which I think I've led with my favourite one there. I shouldn't have led with that. It just sounds like a really cool profession. Like, this a guy who goes around painting bridges.
Definitely fascinating.
But I don't know how you found out anything about that. I've got an apprentice amateur winder.
I can't see why they call it an amateur winder. So a winder could be often you'd find that in the textile industry.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get that one on screen for you, because to be honest, the word amateur is spelt in a funny way, so maybe it's me who just can't read.
No, it just seems unusual. That's all.
Yeah, it's like telling him the same thing twice, isn't it? You're a mix, you're an apprentice, you're amateur.
Yeah. Yes.
You are no good at this job, sir.
Yes.
And other ones I've got, Vernon Wood was a pattern maker. Don't know what that. Vernon Wood also, he was the guy I've mentioned again previously in other podcasts. He was the guy who had the budgie van or the canary van, but that's not listed as his main job. And like you were saying, I'd quite like to go try and, like, if he's selling these budgies or canaries, he must have advertised somewhere. So I'd quite like to find out about that a bit more. I think that would be quite cool.
Potentially, he could have gone to budgie shows and won prizes, and it might be reported in the local newspaper.
Yeah, who knows?
Sorry, you carry on.
Budgies in the land.
Yes.
And yeah, what else have I got? I've got an apprentice joiner, which is fair enough. George Horatio Nelson, my favourite. He was a house painter. James Maxwell McKay, my also new favourite. He was a cotton wrap agent, cotton warp agent, whatever. Alexander McKay, his dad was a commercial traveller. Which does that just mean a salesman, like a travelling salesman?
Yeah.
Yeah. Got another house painter. I've got a cloth manufacturer. Benjamin Ward was a labourer on the railways on the 1871 census at the
Mm.
age of 25. In the 1881 census, he was a plate layer for the railways.
Mm.
So he clearly had a
Mm.
career there.
Mm.
David Jehan was a railway guard in the 1911 census, but then in the 1921 census, he was a dock labourer.
Mm.
So they were sort of the more interesting ones that I found. Obviously, I have mentioned in other podcasts that I found side tube people who are miners and pub landlords and stuff. But I thought I'll try and be focused because, like, when you just go to your tree and go, I'm going to look at professions, and there's hundreds of people shouting at you. I thought I'll just stick with the people who are actually on my direct line.
Mm.
That was that.
So your list, just your simple list of whatever this, I'm guessing it's like 10 or 15 occupations that you've just rattled off, then so many of them are such cool insights to the Victorian era, aren't there? You've got, there's massive house building happening in the Victorian era. There's other building. There's all that railway construction. Do you remember a few episodes ago we talked to Dr. Mike Asbestor about the rapid pace of railway growth, and by, I think he said something crazy like by the time of the First World War, 19,000 miles of railway had been built across Britain, which is like 80 years before there was like virtually no railway. It's like a lot of railway, isn't it?
That's a lot.
Mm. Mm.
I'm glad to have found some people in the railway though, because that does seem like
Yes.
a good thing to research. It's particularly like this the Benjamin guy who clearly he had at least a 10-year career doing railway related things. So there must be some sort of way
Yes.
to track him.
Yes. And also because of the period you said he was searching, I think you said 1871, 1881, then you'd be ideally placed to go and search in the Railway Work, Life and Death Project database to see if he had any accidents, she says gleefully. And also what's interesting is because you're very much a Yorkshire-based family, then you've got a number of textile-related occupations there as well, haven't you? Which makes total sense.
I've seen a lot of that appear. Just like when I haven't even been paying attention, I've noticed that it's come up as like various things to do with wool or cotton. And it often seems like it's an entire family thing. Like even the husband and wife seem to be working in the same place, doing the same sort of job.
Mm. I have that. I've got textile ancestors, particularly in the early censuses. And so some of them are still working from home rather than working in a factory setting. And the wife, even if she has a 1-year-old baby, so obviously there's no childcare or anything, or no formal childcare, she's still down with her occupation in the census. Which I like that, because so often the women don't put their occupation down once they become a wife. So that's interesting. And what other ones you say? The bridge painter, I thought that sounded interesting because you're going to be talking about cast iron bridges and metal bridges which will need painting, whereas you go to earlier times, you've got wooden and stone bridges. They're not going to be painted, whereas you're into this industrial era, and so those bridges need painting, those wonderful metal bridges that we still see around the country. So that's kind of fairly new job, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems like an intriguing, sort of exciting one, like to wonder like what bridges has this guy painted and can I actually find out like where he worked and
Mm.
uh,
Mm.
is that even possible?
I don't know. Well, potentially, I'm making this up off the top of my head, but potentially, if the bridges were owned or maintained by a railway company or something, then you may be able to look through company records, or it depends who's maintaining the railway, whether their records have been kept.
Right.
So it would be a tough ask. You'd have to really want to find out. That's what I'd say.
I mean, it is a cool job.
Yes. But also, even just finding out the metal bridges in the vicinity of where he worked, that will give you some possibilities.
Right, right.
And that's really doable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because presumably he doesn't live a million miles away from where you live, and then you can literally get on your bike or with your running legs and run around and find them. Or you can use a map, whichever you like. Google Earth or something. Yeah?
Yeah, the lazy option.
Hmm. Mm.
Right, so I'm just looking at this amateur thing, and it's not amateur.
Mm.
It's
Ooh, much more interesting. Yes.
I don't know what it is. How I don't even know how to pronounce that.
I said armature. So Nathan and I are doing maybe what we shouldn't do, but it's potentially a good starting point, even though we have got our credibility radar ramped up to max. We're looking at the AI overview search result kind of summary thing at the top of Google. So it says an apprentice armature winder learns to rewind, assemble and test various types of AC and DC motors and stators in an electromechanical engineering environment. Let's go back to that census emission.
This is the 1911 census that's.
Yes. And so that's where it's got that. And then can you go to the column on the right? What does that say? Oh, it just reiterates it. Yes.
Yeah.
And then what was this guy doing in the 1921?
Well, I don't know. This is what I've discovered as well. One of the biggest things I've discovered since like coming on to do this job thing was my research isn't very good.
Your research is good. It's
No,
while our research is a work in progress.
yeah, but it just struck me as interesting because obviously I've started this tree, I've progressed on, and then obviously in recent weeks I've been doing my, oh my God, Mary Ann Briggs, blah blah blah, and then James Maxwell, etc. And I've come up with this pattern of how I do my research.
Mm.
And going back through finding all these jobs, I've visited people that I've not looked at for a long time, and the quality of my research isn't as good. So I've only like registered them on one census and been like, right, that'll do. Job done, tick, boom, they're on my tree. So I don't have as many documents.
Do you know, but I don't think that's an unusual thing at all. I think, you know, where we've talked before, haven't we, about the different phases of when we do our family history. And when we're in tree building mode, we are literally, and I think that's fair enough. We're only a little human. We have our little brain. We're focusing on building that tree. And even just to assess so you've got the correct information to build our branches correctly, our brain is doing lots of different analysis of the information we're finding. Our brain is having to think of different ways to find that information, because inevitably the kind of tried and tested ways, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. So we're having to try different things. So our brain is maxed out in tree building mode. And once you've got enough information to feel confident that person can go on your tree, you're like, great, I've added them to my tree. I have a little bit of evidence that says it's kosher to put them there. Boom, I'm going to move on to the next person and add them. And then I think that's completely normal. It's not naughty. It's acceptable. Yeah, it's fine. But then inevitably, like I just said a few minutes ago, you know, I went back to my, whatever it was, my 4 times great grandpa, James Pickering. And then, so I had his census records before, but I'd never thought, right, let's solely focus on his occupation trajectory through his life, looking at the simple data from there. And then let's think which records, either side of these, you know, through the census period, which other census records other than the census can I use to get further information about his occupation. So I'd never done that before, but that's not naughty of me. That's just that information I put there was completely good and fine, but it's just a work in progress.
It's just interesting though, like in terms of coming back to what you started. Like I know with your help I've grown as a researcher, so that my skills are much better than they used to be. Well, obviously when I first started, I knew nothing, and now I can see the gaps on that side of the and it's because it's a few layers in. I've sort of, I think I've touched on this before. You get a few layers back, and you're comfortable with them, so you skip on to the next one, and you do more deeper research on the people that are further back than the people that are closer to you. So I've got all these gaps, and it made me feel a bit sweaty, to be honest. I was like, oh my God, I literally have to start again. And I don't have to start again, but I guess it's worth revisiting your tree with your new skills, because you're going to get more information. Like I found a rogue brother that I didn't know was for one person. And equally at the beginning, I wasn't bothered, was I? I wasn't interested in siblings. But now I was like, why haven't I added this person? They're not on the 1911, but they're on the 1921. This is such an easy add. I've got an extra person for my tree. And I was baffled that the old version of me wasn't interested in, didn't put it in. But now I want to build up that texture and make sure they are really solid and be able to place every single person as much as I can.
I think your point of the importance of revisiting our research, particularly the stuff that we do when we first start out, that is such a good point you made. Because so the ideal, the golden thing, isn't it? The golden rule is you start with what you know and you work backwards in time. So you start with yourself and you build up a few generations. But you're doing that with really rookie skills. All of us are, inevitably. But then you're building upon this these foundations, which are made by someone who's brand new to the topic. So it's a really good idea to revisit it, partly to make sure, crucially, that we are not overlooking something, and partly to make sure that kind of subsequent facts don't give us a kind of better picture of the past. Because sometimes if you only have one or two bits of data, you can draw really, really wrong conclusions about somebody's life. You need to have more information to get a fuller picture of what their life felt like and how it panned out, don't you?
Definitely. And like I keep saying this, but I've changed as a person and as a researcher. My interest is very different from when I started. I just wanted to get back before, and now it's let's build the lives for these people and find
Mm.
all the strands and see what stories come out. So
Mm.
yeah, it's fascinating. Like I said, it did make me feel a bit sweaty because like my completionist is like these are so not complete now, but I actually do enjoy that part now. The methodical logic and placing everybody in the census. There's something very calming about it. It's
Mm.
unless I can't find them, they go missing, and I spend 3 weeks looking for them. Apart from that, it's very calming and relaxing, and that's like a nice part of the hobby for me now. Is
Mm.
it's list writing basically, isn't it?
Back to the occupation. So the census is such a gem, isn't it? Because it does list people there with their occupations. And the reason I asked about the 1921 is because um, quite often it will give the employer details. So for your ancestor who worked as an apprentice armature winder, I was thinking, oh, that'd be really cool if he was still working in that line of work, because then we might get the name of the company he worked for. So that's why I was asking that. And I think that's so the census, I love it. We all love the census. It's I think it's always a tough call whether people like the census most or newspapers. Trade directories is another one. There's some records which people just love because they're so evocative and rich, and there's so many different ways you can cut the cake to get different pieces of information out of them. So the census is really cool, but then you're right. So I think you're at the stage you've got some censuses for some of your people, and the same will all be at this stage checking that we have as many census data points for our ancestors as possible is good because it helps to solidify it and helps us just for every reason that we don't need to spell out is good to have all those census records. But then from there, drawing out a list of the occupations that they held through those censuses and then thinking what other records can help us, you know, learn more about their occupations is good. So we touched on a few already, like trade directories are really good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's if your ancestor was in their own line of work, then as opposed to being an employee, that will help you more easily because you'll be able to search on their own name. If they're an employee, you're going to have to search on their boss's name to find out about the premises. And yeah,
Where do they come up? Are they on Ancestry or?
yeah, there's some all over the place. So, um, some on Ancestry or Find My Past or the Genealogist. For England and Wales, there's the special collections on the Leicester University website, which is, I think, quite hard to search. But if you Google special collections, trade directories, Leicester University, the reason why they're good is they're free. For Scotland, there's the National Library of Scotland. For Wales, I'm pretty sure Wales has free trade directories for Wales at the National Library of Wales on their website. So these are really cool because they're digitised, often freely available, and they're published fairly frequently. So sometimes every year or every couple of years, they might be made for a few counties. They might be made just for a city. So there's, they're commercial publications like early Yellow Pages, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so some of them will have listings of residents, but other times they'll have listings of, or both, they'll have listings of occupations. So you'll be able to look up, let's say in your town, you'll be able to look at everybody who's a milliner and they'll have it under milliner, have their name and address, name and address. That's quite cool.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll be listed twice. So I've got a saddler and they're listed a few times in trade directories for Liverpool because they're listed under their home address and they're listed under their work address, which I find interesting because they weren't living above the shop. So I would just assume they would have done, but they weren't anyway. So it's worth looking and just keep scouring. Don't think when you find one result, don't think that's everything. Keep looking for everything. So trade directories are good for that.
Okay, brilliant.
And they're really fun just to see, there'll be a list. You think, how many umbrella makers does a small town need? And yeah, there's been really occupations that you're just not going to get in a small town today.
That sounds great.
Hmm.
I am quite obsessed about the whole Vernon Wood selling canaries. I really,
Mm.
I think I've said before, I've got one picture of him holding a bird with my granddad as a very young boy, like stood next to him smiling. That's the only evidence I've seen of this. So I'd like to flesh that story out because it's again, it's one of those ones that's been handed down and I've not seen any sort of information or paraphernalia about it.
So I think you should try trade directories then, and I think you just for to build up your wider understanding of. So you know that he's selling. Is it canaries or budgerigars? What did you say? Budgerigars.
I want to say canaries,
Yeah.
but equally it could be budgies.
He's selling little birds, and so it would be really useful to have a look in the trade directories for the area and the era that he's living and working in to find out what other bird selling listings there are. Like it might be under, is it ornithologists or maybe I have no idea. I've never searched on this topic, but you're going to have to probably read about the Victorian or early 20th century budgerigar and canary selling scene, and you'll get some words and you'll know what they're traded as, and then you'll be able to look for these words in the trade directory and you'll find, oh my goodness, there's 20 of them, 20 people all selling budgerigars in my local area. But I can remember even when I was a child, it was popular for people to have little birds in small cages in their living room.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that as well.
I think you're too young for that, but I could remember. Maybe you're vaguely remember. It was just fading out, wasn't it? Like by the time I was a teenager, I can't remember anyone who had them.
I feel like my nana and granddad had them, which would make sense because he's the son of my great granddad. I was stating the obvious anyway. But yeah, I've got this vague memory of them having some birds, but again, it could have been a dream. See, I do want to research that, and I think I mentioned he's local to my area where I'm now, and my local library is actually going to close down soon, but they've got loads of local family history stuff, so I think I need to jump on that and get into the actual library.
Yes,
Have a look at the newspapers. There might be some adverts in there.
yes. It'd be really good. There could be adverts. There could be shows, as I said, competitions.
Mm.
It's definitely worth a look.
I'll need to quiz my mum more as well. It's quite interesting, like the stories that you get handed down, and you take them as gospel, but there's nothing else to back them up, and there's maybe no texture or further information. You just like, oh yeah, this guy did this, and that's it. And it might not be true at all. I think it is true, but you think, I don't know, I feel like there should be some more information or some pictures to back it up as opposed to just this one photograph. It could have just been a random day out and then my mum's made a story up. Oh yeah, he sold them. Did he? I'm not calling my mum a liar, by the way.
No, but it's nice to flesh it out. So what I need to do when I mentioned my farmer ancestor at the start, so I've got his national probate calendar entry, so I need to order his will, and I don't think I'm going to find out anything about his occupation. What I'd love to find is his will and saying he's bequeathing all his seed growing equipment or something to somebody. But he's not going to say that, is he? Because he's already been retired for 2 censuses by the time he dies. So I think probably what I need to be doing is looking between the 1861 and 1871 census in local newspapers for him selling his farming equipment, or see if I can get any clues like that.
Yeah, that's quite exciting. In my head, he's like a horticulturist. He's like actually got a collection. He's like already got like 12 different varieties of corn that no one else in the country has.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. I just literally don't know at all. It could be flowers, it could be potatoes. Who knows? So yeah, I need to find out that.
Well, that is cool.
Hmm.
Going back to my electrical guy, I've just snuck onto the 1921 census and he's still doing the same job, electrical armature winder, but he's got an employer now, English Electric Company, Phoenix Works.
Fantastic.
So
So then you can read about that company, and when you read about these Victorian and early 20th century companies, they're putting in infrastructure which is just changing. It's drastically changing people's lives. If it's electromechanical or whatever you said, I mean, goodness knows what it's doing, but it's changing the world around them.
yeah, it is though. It is that dramatic, isn't it?
It really is. Yes.
We take so much for granted nowadays that it's probably revolutionary at the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm. And then what other people he had? He had another person she said was a cotton wrap agent. So I don't know what that is. I'm a little bit annoyed with myself for not knowing what it is.
That's James Maxwell.
Okay.
What a guy.
And there was another thing you said about a pattern maker. And so I'm guessing that means he's making pieces of machinery. Yeah, but that's so broad.
Oh, right. You see, again, in my ignorance, because I've been getting loads of wool and cotton trade things, I presumed it was something to do with like weaving or a loom or something like that.
He could be making pieces of machinery for a loom. Oh, yeah. But I don't think he's going to be like making patterns for like clothing making, if that's what you.
Right.
I think he's going to be manufacturing parts. Yeah.
Yes.
For anybody who is finding funny old occupations on the census, which is most of us, most of the time, then the really good website to check out is it's initials, it's not words. So I'm just going to say it out. So it's https:// and then it's rmhh.co.uk. So that's R for Romeo, M for Mike, hotel.co.uk. And that's an index of old occupations from the Victorian period. So that's fun just to browse through, but it's also really, really useful as well. I had somebody's rough birth age, like their inferred birth age from a census record, and that was there in whichever year. I think it was the I think it was the 1830s. And then I subsequently found their baptism record, and so obviously their baptism record had a precise date of their baptism, but their baptism was a year earlier than their inferred dates from the census. So let's say the baptism goes baptized 17th of July, 1836, and then their inferred birth year from the census is 1837. So Ancestry flagged this up with a great big red thing across the top going, your baby's getting baptized. I didn't say it, spell it out, but that's what it was telling me. The baby's getting baptized before it's born. And I was like, yeah, I know, because I know why the timeline of dates is showing that.
Yeah.
Because I was in a hurry, in a mode doing other things, I thought I'll sort that out later. So what this means is currently on my tree, I have this situation where this baby gets baptized and then the year later he gets born. So somebody looking at my tree will go, oh, muppet, amateur. Clearly that can't have happened. It's like, well, I know that, but I just haven't sorted it out yet. So I'm just saying that in defense of mistakes on trees.
Yes. You can see how it happens, can't you?
Yes. So the thing is, I just need to remember to go back and sort that, because that was yesterday. I need to not leave it languishing there for many, many years and me looking disreputably careless.
Mm.
When you start to write up your family story, if you start to actually write it up as a story and you think you know loads and loads about your ancestors or about a few of your ancestors or about a branch of ancestors, and then once you start to write it up, you gradually feel less and less confident because you think, oh, I actually don't know as much as I think. When I try and put it into a kind of a picture painting 1,000 words, then the bit blurry and I haven't got enough details in there. And it's the same with the occupations. You think, wow, I found these occupations, and then actually trying to establish what they were, what did that mean for somebody's life. It's not an immediate quick win necessarily.
No,
Is a valuable thing to do.
it definitely highlighted like a massive knowledge gap for me. Like, I have no clue about half. Obviously, it's sensible ones you understand, but a lot of them I was like, I don't know what these words mean. I appreciate it might be a job. I can roughly guess what it is, but I am clueless. But I guess that's where the learning comes in, and then you want to find these things out, and that's how I will obviously grow and develop, hopefully, and be like, right, okay.
Definitely. And it's partly finding out what the actual jobs were and partly putting them into the context. Like you're saying about you got your railway people who worked in the railway for, a few censuses in a row. So they've kind of got a consistent, hopefully, employer. And then there was somebody else who was a railway guard in 1911, but by 1921 they're a dock labourer. And that just really is like a perfect little capsule example of the tough economic climate of the 1921 census.
Yeah.
Have to take whatever work they could, because that's not such a great job. Being a guard, that's kind of got a bit of cachet about it, hasn't it? You can't be the engine driver, you want to be the guard. You don't want to be queuing up in the docks hoping you're going to get work that day. That's a tougher situation to be in. Not so fun.
Yeah, I felt like that when I saw the change because I found the other guy who had a career. And I thought, all right, this guy's going to follow suit. And I thought railway guard sounded grander than labourer on railway. So I thought this other guy, it's David J. Hearn. He's going to have this long career in the railways, and then suddenly he's a dock labourer. And then instantly in my head, I've got pictures of, like, the opening scenes of Rocky, where Rocky's working on the docks trying to just find any old job going.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. Well, and then that's not a silly thing to think about. So also, I mean, one of the major areas of our ancestors' employment, which applies to millions of people when it happened, was during the First and Second World Wars, because so many people were called up to serve, weren't they? So it'd be interesting to find out what your railway guard ancestor did through the First World War. That would be worth having a look at.
Yeah, I hadn't even considered that. That's another thing, you see. I'm not instantly as astute as you with all that stuff. I've just been looking at those dates and the censuses and not thinking to myself, there's a war in between these two things. Hadn't even occurred to me. That's really worthwhile thinking about, isn't it?
Yes. The good thing is, though, I mean, working as a dock labourer is not easy work, is it? So from that, hopefully, we can assume he didn't have any significant wounds or injuries, at least to his body.
Mm. He might have learnt new skills in the army that are more beneficial to
Yes.
ships and stuff. Who knows?
Yes. So, Nathan, what do you think? What are we going to do for our homework next time?
There's a big, big part of me that wants to go back and revisit my entire tree and do my census thing, but I feel I could do that regardless. I am keen on finding out about Birdman. I want to get a picture of a really vintage van that's got his name on it, which may not even exist, but that's in my head and it's beautiful. So I might try and research that, and I think it's probably valuable for me to try and get to this library before it actually does shut, in case there are any local records about man.
Definitely. So, can you remind me, what era do you think Birdman was working in? When did Birdman die? When was Birdman born and when did Birdman die?
He is my great granddad, so he was born in 1900 and died in 1972.
Okay.
So it's not too far the
It's
past.
not, he's not too far, no. So, you can be looking for him in trade directories.
Okay.
Yeah. You're unlikely to find him in the phone books, but it's worth a go. Yeah. And so the phone books are on Ancestry,
Okay.
but he's unlikely to be in there. Well, only because most people didn't have a phone for most of that period. Yeah. But it's worth a go, worth having a look in there. It would be worth looking in the old newspapers, and the best place to look for old newspapers is Find My Past. So Find My Past, you do have to subscribe to, but they do have a free selection of newspapers. I think it's about 1 million pages of newspapers, but obviously it depends whether it covers your period and place of interest. But if you explore the free newspapers on Find My Past and see if it does cover, your places of interest, it's worth having a go, isn't it? And see if you can find any ads for him. If you don't want to take out a subscription to Find My Past yet, is search on him once you've got information from other sources without spending extra money. So have a look in trade directories as well, on Ancestry and on the places I said earlier. So the special collections on Leicester, and then go to Find My Past armed with a bit more clearer information, and then search on him, and then you can just buy some credits, and so you could do it on the British Newspaper Archive as well. You can just buy some credits. I think it's like £20 or £21 or something. You can buy a bunch of credits that can sit there and they don't expire. So you're not setting yourself up with a new subscription. And then you can look at potential digitized newspapers, which might have an ad or a flower show mention or whatever else. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. I've written all that down. I think that's going to be my task. I think I'd like to flesh this guy out a bit more. And obviously, I can go to source because my mum will have memories of him. So
Yeah.
I'll ask more questions because, again, I know that that's my mum's granddad, but I've never asked the questions.
If you've got any, so he's your great granddad. So are there any descendants on some of these other branches that you could track down and say, do you happen to have any information or photos about him? That would be good to do.
Yes.
And the electoral registers would be good, just to help, because he will have the vote through because you're talking about a 20th century person, and so can look for him in the electoral registers. They can be quite hard to identify. You've definitely got your correct person, but if once his wife gets the vote as well, you'll find them both listed there next to each other. So that just helps you get addresses for him, on a fairly regular basis. And so the electoral registers, you'd find those on Find My Passport. I think they might only be available up till the 1930s, but that give you a bit of help. Sticking with the 1930s, you can look for him in the 1939 register. These are all just places you might find information about what he does.
This guy's, I'm just looking at him now, he's fascinating already. I think I've mentioned this before, and I don't know where I've got this. I must have got this from a census or something. Or was it on his marriage? It was on his marriage certificate. On his marriage certificate, he's down as a corporation lamplighter.
Wonderful. Yeah.
This guy's had all sorts of trades, because this guy's also the pattern maker. Right, I think I'm having a deep dive on this guy completely.
Yeah. What did he do through his life?
Mm,
Wonderful.
intriguing.
So many evocative jobs just from bygone ways of life, and just, isn't he? He is a time capsule person.
He is, yeah. I mean, lamplighter's instantly evocative, isn't it? And like, I'm got the proper Dickensian sort of style images in my head straight away, which it obviously wouldn't be, but that's where I've
I've got images like that. So I can remember some books from when I was a child, and they'd had pictures of the lamp, somebody like a little child looking out of the window. And even then it felt like an old fashioned thing. Even as old as I am, it still felt like this is from a long time ago. And then you would have pictures of the lamplighter lighting the lamp outside their window, and all exciting. Yeah.
That's cool. Right, yeah. So that is my homework. Vernon Wood, mainly trades and professions, but I'll flesh him out as much as I can.
Mm.
I think that's actually quite a cool thing to just think about, because I don't have many people that I can go to source about. So to actually talk to my mum and get some stories from her about her granddad is actually a good thing to do, isn't it?
Really good.
What are you doing then?
I'm going to learn a bit more about the Victorian farm situation. And so I have actually been, there's a really cool farm in Shropshire called Acton, Scotland. I have been there years ago, but when you go somewhere and you don't realize you've got an ancestor connection to the kind of environment. So I was like, this is fun. And then I wish I'd paid a bit more attention, but I would have looked at it with a different light if I'd known I hadn't, if I properly realised and put the cogs together in my head. Anyway, so, and then I need to probably rewatch. This is a good excuse for some binge watching. If I can get hold of it, rewatch the Victorian Farm, that telly series. I need to rewatch that with a different light as well. And they will have all sorts of really detailed clues about what it was like to work, what it was possible to work, what people could actually accomplish in a day, year, how many people it took to accomplish it. I need to learn all of that. I need to learn about what seeds he was cultivating, and I need to get his will to find out if he has any juicy clues in there about his line of work as well.
Wow. You made me feel really lazy. You're like,
No, I know, we're doing the same thing.
yeah, but you're just like next level involved. Like, you are really gonna build a proper profile of this person to the point that computer could probably create them for you. It's amazing.
Or I might not. I might just keep banging my head against the wall. And also, we have to be honest about this. The reason why I'm so enthusiastic about finding out about James's line of work is because I was trying to find Mary Ann Pickering. Oh my goodness, didn't manage to find her. I had to cheer myself up with a bit of a rabbit hole. Whatever.
Fair enough. I have to say, as soon as I started looking at these jobs, I was like, this isn't practical. This isn't helpful. This is just rabbit hole creating, and it really is.
But
In a good way.
you're not trying to do your family database. You're trying to do your family history. The history.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. I feel a bit romantic about it all at the moment, and I'm in my head, I'm getting all these beautiful pictures, like we say, the lamplighter, and equally, like the people working on the trains. I'm in, Futura, Gill Sands fonts, really old school, like steam trains, and I want to get some of that paraphernalia going and just
Definitely.
immerse myself in it, even though I don't know what that is yet. But I'm a budgie man. It's terrible. I've got this really, really obvious, like, vintage car in my head. That's all these budgies, and it's got really ornate gold text on it that's floral. It's obviously not going to be that, but in my head it is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it could be. Well, I wish you all the best with finding it. Like, you've got to get some local history information as well, because they can be a gold mine, whether it's a local history organisation or the local family history society. There'll be people in there who just know things that you didn't even know it was possible to know.
Yeah. It's interesting because this tech on a sort of simple scale, this is like it feels like a quick job, like, "Oh, let's just look at this guy's job." But actually, it's a massive research task when you get into it, and it's gonna open up lots of different avenues, isn't it?
Mm.
The question is just how lazy am I?
Well, it's not the matter of lazy. I think so. When we do our family history, I think personally it has got to be fun, and there definitely isn't a right or wrong way of doing it. Like, there's a wrong way if you just go and copy someone else's because it may be wrong, and then it's just a nonsense if it's not actually factually related to your family. But after that, once you've got people who are definitely your people, how you research them and what you do with them, none of us can do everything. I don't think it matters.
No. I guess in the last few weeks, I've managed to talk myself out of rabbit holes and get into sort of facts.
Hmm.
And that I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is just a pure rabbit hole and I am gonna get totally lost in it. But again, it's fun and I am excited to find out what I can find and get a few more details.
And how about this? You say, right, well, give ourselves a week. When we next come on the podcast, we can say what we have or haven't found about Budgie and Seedman the farmer. Okay.
Yep.
And then we put a bow around that rabbit hole and we get back on track.
Yes, that sounds like a great pledge to have as well, isn't it? That's
Okay.
spot
Okay.
on.
Okay. Nice.
I will indulge for a week.
Okay. Enjoy. See you next week. And
Okay.
thanks for listening, everybody. And if you'd like to sign up to our e-newsletter, then honestly, it gets more and more useful every single month, or every single week, rather. So it goes out a few times a week, but it definitely goes out on a Monday. And this is the main one where we have really, really juicy, factual information. Everything from, like, one just going out recently would be useful information on actually how to build your tree, those beginner steps, but also how to do hardcore research and make sure you've assessed everything thoroughly. So we've got a whole range of advice for beginners and newbies, and you need to go to www.family-tree.co.uk/newsletter-sign-up.